Welcome to the Poddamnelectric podcast, the purpose of which is to discuss and debate recording output of our favourite bands and musicians. Topics will be chosen by ourselves at will, but will tend to include rankings of particular discographies or periods of time of particular music scenes. All good so far, boys?
Yeah.
Smooth.
Fantastic. For our first couple of episodes, we intend to heavily rank and review every studio album by the highly prolific, incredible Iron Maiden, one of our absolute faves. We will give our preferences from 17 to 1, and when a particular record finds its highest rating between the three of us, we intend to deep dive into that album. Them the rules. Make sense?
Perfectly.
Blammy also pointed out as well, didn't he, the other day,
We're off.
that we've got a minimum of sort of 10 albums. So did
Was
you
that a
mention
thing?
Yeah, the
Was that a thing?
discography was
Go
like
into
a
that?
thing.
Yeah.
To try and find bands that have at least 10 albums or more, with the odd exception where we'll do a cheeky episode of a band that might have 6 or 7 albums.
Okay.
But more often than not, it's to try and rank a difficult task.
Yeah. So there's quite a substantial output of a band.
Yeah.
Something to get our teeth into.
That's why this is one of the biggest at 17, without the 45,000 live albums.
You've touched it there. We have gone in heavy for our first one.
Massively.
Before we get into diving straight into our rankings, why Maiden? Why have we chosen this one? Now you put it like that, it's a heavy, heavy chunk of music history to bite into. Why Maiden? What's special about Maiden that we thought, right, that's got to be the first one?
It's a heavy metal institution that you can be of a lot of different ages and be into your Maiden. There's a bit of age
We'll go
between
into
us,
that.
different periods of it, but we've all been to Maiden gigs, the three of us, and there's so many people we know. Everyone at least knows the name Iron Maiden, and most people who like a bit of guitar-based music can name one song or an album.
Yeah.
They're just an institution, and it's something, they are so iconic that it's about the best place you can start in terms of the heavy metal.
Yeah.
And for me, it's the consistency and longevity.
Yeah.
Because usually when bands go on for that long, it's not really likely that they're going to have such a strong output. But even Maiden bringing out Senjutsu this year, and you've still got bangers on there.
Yeah.
And a lot of bands can't do that at this point in their career. But where does it sit in the 17 album back catalogue?
For sure. So
and
another...
the other thing needs to be mentioned, there's got to be Steve Harris. Because it's him. It's him from the start till this minute we're in now. Driven that band, and that's something for me that attaches me to them. The strength that they have been run by that one person almost just bang all the way through. It just astounds me even now. And there's a certain theme with that when we do some of the bands in the upcoming episodes. There'll be one driving person through them throughout. Which, it's a cool thing.
Fantastic.
I.e. Tony Iommi. We'll get to that in future.
Steve Harris,
Malcolm
Tom
Young.
Araya, Malcolm Young. Clues to future episodes.
Maybe.
Or not. So I agree, lots to delve into. A band that has touched 5 decades, 3 different singers, so much to unpack. Big Maiden nerds. I would just go into the 3 of us have been long-time friends. That's our background for why the 3 of us particularly have chosen to embark on this adventure.
Yeah.
And the trigger for this adventure was because we realised the amount of hours we spent ranting, debating and discussing music in cars on the way to gigs, on cars to play our own gigs, wherever it was. And we suddenly went, we've done this like 100 times, why don't we just record it?
Yeah.
Because we've always got out of the car laughing our heads off thinking it's great, no more than we started about a band, why don't we just record it?
Yeah.
And that was kind of a conversation that made us all go, let's try this.
Fantastic.
Yeah, you are right. I
How
hadn't
was
thought
the
about it
trigger?
like that. But yeah, the trigger point,
Yeah.
let's just do this somewhere and let our families have some rest.
Somewhere is an undisclosed location in Shed Force 1.
I'd like to go into that because thanks to you, Christopher, we have got this undisclosed location. Shed Force 1, we've named it. We won't tell you where. We don't want people knocking on Chris's door, debating why he put a certain album in at number 10 and at number 12.
Can't do that.
We know
Pictures
this
of
is...
Blaze Bailey shoved through my letterbox. I can't handle it.
Yeah. We don't want this.
Unless they're signed.
So before we delve in, the journey, we all know a lot of Maiden material like the back of our hands, but we did all each go on a little journey into stuff we weren't so familiar with. How was that journey for you fellas? Any particular surprises without any spoilers of rankings? Was it a tricky? What kind of journey did you go on? You're a good one to start with this, Nicholas.
I have said before that I think the one word that I'd use is arduous. It's been a long... And what started off as such an enjoyable process...
You took it too far, man.
I've taken it so far, and I've limited my listening so that I can focus fully on Maiden. As you know, I've listened to every single album in chronological order.
Yeah.
And then, to be fair to Senjutsu, I've then listened to the whole lot mixed together in shuffle, which is there's a format of listening that I don't usually do.
That's been your process.
And my process has been at the end of that to then refer to what I've written, maybe revise it a couple of times, another revision, and then get to the end point now.
The reason why that's particularly amusing is knowing you, like we do, very closely, and your thought process over most things can be at times quite intense, all-encompassing, fantastic attention to detail.
Bit OCD.
Yeah, well, I just think
not in a bad way.
I just think there's some qualities there that will lend itself to this venture as we go on. Yeah.
But put me through a bit of a ringer. Where
are you?
But I do feel my list now. I think we all feel. I mean, Chris was definitely set sooner than me and you.
Yeah.
But we all feel that that's locked in now.
Definitely locked.
Although I think you might still be questioning the placement of a very classic album.
Right.
But we will see.
There we'll
go. See where it sits.
All good stuff.
Cool.
We've had banter over this the last couple of months. We know some of our general areas of where some of these albums are going to go in our own particular tastes. We certainly don't know at all, once we get into the real business end of that top sort of 6 to 8, where we have landed each of these records. So that will be... So there's stuff we sort of know. There's a lot of surprises to come, I think, when we get into it.
Yes.
Yeah? Which should be entertaining for us three.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, certainly for us three. Yeah. If there's anybody we're doing it for,
it's us three.
Yeah, just to get it out.
Yeah.
It's like a therapy session.
For
just
sure.
Release.
Oh, yeah.
We will pick up tens and tens of fans along the way, I feel.
That's possible.
But we'll keep it underground for now.
Oh, yes.
We'll keep it level.
Yeah.
On the level. Do you want to go in?
Let's go in.
Let's go in.
At number 17.
17 records in these guys' arsenal. Christopher Lammy Pie.
Yes.
What's your least favourite Iron Maiden album?
At number 17, it is the sophomore Blaze effort, Virtual 11.
Oh!
Sophomore what? Can
Blaze
you repeat that?
effort, Virtual 11.
Okay. I need to get these in an order. I've come unprepared for visuals.
And to keep things moving, just like Chris, Virtual 11 for me is in last place.
That's your last place.
My least favourite Iron Maiden album. And I'd like to just throw in, before we embark on this journey, that no Iron Maiden album is bad.
True.
We are ranking 17 incredible records that, in the whole scheme of music, if you were to throw them in there, they would all rank really high.
Yeah.
But we have to put them in an order.
Yeah.
So this is our only option.
Something has to be at the bottom.
So you've gone Virtual 11 for your
Blaze
least favourite. Blaze is at the bottom. I'm going to have to agree.
Oh!
From the Pro Blaze chair comes a little bit.
We'll go into the Pro Blaze chair.
Right.
It's an immediate debate.
It's an immediate debate.
As previously explained, when an album hits its highest ranking combined of us three, when one of us finally gets to it in their rating, we will then have a little dive into that. Some we could go on for hours.
Yeah.
Others might be briefer.
And we have also generated Maiden fact sheets for every album and every tour.
Maiden fact sheets.
Inside year or 2 year or 3 year cycles. This covers 1998 to 1999.
Oh, nice!
Yes. Only a short period because I'm afraid we know what happens to Blaze in 1999. Poor Blaze.
Right, I'll just give you my thoughts on Virtual 11.
Yeah.
And that is, it's the last album with Blaze. And as I say, in a normal scenario, this album as a standalone record is really quite enjoyable. Like there's tracks like The Klansman and Como Estás, Amigos.
Great song.
Huge riffs, absolutely huge. But by now the band is breaking apart, and the structure of the album just seems really just thrown together to me.
Okay.
And my issue is the Angel and the Gambler.
Angel and the Gambler.
Released as the first single to promote the
A
album.
9-minute song.
You want to sink, you want to torpedo an album, put this out as the single.
If you want to kill it, basically.
Yeah. I'm
But
down.
what annoys me is Future Real is absolutely amazing.
Which is the
Like-
second single from the album. Turn them around, and the promotion
Genius.
and the launch of the album is infinitely stronger.
And
For
if
sure.
if you take Angel and the Gambler out and go straight to Lightning Strikes Twice,
Maybe lightning.
the
strikes
two
twice.
work, the flow work. But
Yeah.
other than that,
Angel and the Gambler. It is a 9.5 minute song, I believe, something like that.
It was edited for the single, and even that was a struggle.
Didn't it come out on something before this record? Was it like was it a freebie?
It might.
Was that something else? Am I
No, there's
confusing?
something else they did where they put a song on these
Oh,
flex
where they
on a magazine.
freebied it.
But this was out about weeks or a month before the album, roughly, and it is in an edited form. But
It's-
even then, the video was all sorts of CGI madness, and the whole thing it just doesn't work. Interesting to talk about singles very quickly at this point. There are no B-sides or originals or covers for this point in Maiden. It is all live material across all the singles.
Yeah,
So Blaze isn't even getting the love of some fun covers or some wacky B-sides.
yeah.
It is just these two songs and a whole bunch of live stuff.
Why do you think that is? What's going on there?
Well, that would lead me to think that you look now that Harris is looking back. Because going on at this point in Maiden, you've got the Eddie's Head box set, all the previous stuff. You've got the Ed Hunter game where you play the previous Eddies.
Yeah,
Ed Hunter compilation, going back to the past again. There's a whole concept that the remasters are out these years as well. 1999 is the remaster
which of
CD.
these?
Yeah,
which
it's
I
like
love.
Harris is looking back. His foot's now not dragged out of that. He's not one step, he's not dragged it all the way out. And he's realised that. And there's a lot of activity unlocking the
Some
Maiden bolts a little bit
retrospective
more
stuff.
now. Yeah, that happens. We'll reference that one more time. The first 10 years thing. Bruce is still in the band at that point.
Is he
So-
trying to make up for something?
I
Is
just
he,
think he's-
is
I
he
don't know.
thinking they're on the rocks? We need to keep the classic shit in people's faces as well.
Still touring. I mean, they're still touring like a machine, but they're not playing the same level of venues they were. It isn't a huge enormous dome at this point. It's a step down,
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
that isn't necessarily attributed to ticket sales or fan base. I think it's just to do with the fact that the album isn't as big, and as you said, the band is imploding slightly.
the songs ain't there, are they?
I
The
know.
year's 1998. It's recorded in Barnyard Studios, which is basically their own practice
Yes.
/ recording space in Essex. It's produced. Steve Harris is named firstly, and
Yeah.
Nigel Green. Harris as a producer. Has he got a bit to answer for in this late 90s era?
Yeah. Go for it, Schmidt.
well, he took the ball by the horns, didn't he?
Yeah,
And he
Smash
was
control.
always the one driving force of the band anyway.
yeah.
So he wasn't going to be swayed. So if he decided he was going to record and produce the album, master, whatever,
Yeah,
he would do anything he'd want to do.
his way goes. His way or the highway.
My issue with that is that when you've had people like Martin Birch involved in production, and you're trying to get a new generation interested into Maiden post Bruce Dickinson, they've already had the belt in X Factor,
Yeah,
and they've had to follow it up with something. And Blaze has gone in guns blazing and done exactly what he wanted to do this time.
Yeah.
And sadly for him, that has just not worked at all.
So it's worth mentioning, we don't skip over these such things, but hopefully our listeners are quite au fait with some of the bands that we're going to cover.
Yeah.
So we're sort of not skipping over the fact, but we like to go into the weeds a little bit left field, the three of us. We don't need to go into the fact that Bruce has left the band, they've got another singer. We're hoping that's kind of obvious at points. We like to just get straight into the weeds.
Yeah.
But Bruce has left. He's done a tour where he's been accused of not really giving a fuck, putting little effort into shows.
Well,
been a bit
picking a venue
troublesome.
as well, going, well, we're doing a big venue this week, so I
Right.
put in loads of effort. We're doing a smaller venue next week, so I just kind of turn up late, be a bit pissed, not be too concerned about the performance quality of the show. I think Harris watches it each night, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So he sees this
Really?
belting performance, followed by a lacklustre.
I know I saw him at Donington for that final tour of Fear of the Dark, right? So that's Donington,
Man,
right?
I'm jealous
But
of
it's
that
different.
anyway.
It's
Massive.
different, right? You can argue, he didn't put the
It's
effort into certain venues. If it was true, if it wasn't, who knows? But when I saw on that Fear of the Dark tour, they were still. You would never have guessed what was about to happen. Not in a million years. would
Was
you
that
guess.
Donington?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you see, that's a
92.
big show, isn't it?
But you just would
So that's
never
one of the
have
ones
guessed
where
it.
Bruce gave it 10 out of 10.
No idea what was going to happen. Shocking. There may be someone who will historically correct me here and say it was public before Donington, but I don't think it was. I think it's post Donington. He makes the announcement that it happens.
Yeah,
So even if
probably.
there were rumours, it certainly was not public knowledge when he played Donington 92. Just astonishing. So yeah, more about there it is. Virtual Evans.
It's a really weird time for Maiden. New singer. Harris is, dare I say it, a bit of a control freak at this point. It's affecting the sound of the albums, I think. His production isn't... He's not a producer. He's a phenomenal songwriter and performer. But his just desire, which I had off, that passion to push them on, it's kind of overspilling into territories he's less au fait with, and I think it's really coming through in the sound of it, because it's thin. It doesn't sound clean and sparkling like a Seventh Son or a Power Slave.
It's
think
weird
so
because
it's a
for
weird
the year,
time.
when you look at the bands that were releasing albums with the production they had that year, you've got System of a Down self-titled to come out.
Yeah,
Korn have done Follow the Leader. I'm talking about commercial act, I'm talking
for
about
sure.
here. Fear Factory have done Obsolete, and Meshuggah have done Chaosphere. So everybody's come along with this clinical, crisp production
Fat.
that, it is a bit of an anomaly that you've got this Maiden album that's Maiden at their worst, sadly, and to rather than give the best product they could, they've just done it all themselves.
I think the other thing that's important about this, the Harris the syndrome here, is a couple of things. When bands self-produce their albums, a lot of times it goes completely wrong. A really good example of this was Aerosmith, who started to produce a couple of albums as the Boneyard Boys. I think it was them and Marty Fredrickson, right?
The Boneyard Boys.
Well, if you haven't got a decent engineer or producer to tell you that, you're wrong. I know, don't go there. If you haven't got a decent engineer or producer to tell you that doesn't work sound-wise,
Sure.
that bit of the song isn't quite
There's no
good.
control to the madness, is
we
there?
talked about St Anger before we started recording. It's another
mental.
one where Bob Rock's almost a member of the band and isn't editing the songs, isn't sorting it out.
Sure.
And Harris has got no one over his shoulder. And creatively now, we've gone through the X Factor
No
where we
Bruce.
probably had some songs left over and a bit to go. However, by now,
It's fine.
That's
This
a
is
fan.
live.
That's a fan
This is
messaging
live.
in.
right,
Which is
by this
impressive.
point now,
They're not even live yet.
he's lost no Adrian Smith, and no Bruce Dickinson now for several years. He's got no songwriting partners, no one to bounce it off of. And so suddenly all of the safety nets have gone. There's no Birch, there's no Bruce, there's no Smith. One album in, you can probably cover those cracks over quite well.
Sure.
Blaze is in, there's enthusiasm, you're up and running. Man on the Edge is the first single, go. We'll get to all this later. However, You can't pull the same trick twice with this one.
Yeah.
And there's nothing left in the
Haven't thought
tank.
of that really.
Nothing left in the tank.
I hadn't thought about that.
Have to have a producer to rein you in, and you need your yin and yang for your songwriters.
So it's literally chief songwriters in Maiden is Steve Harris number one, probably Brucey after that, and then obviously Adrian Smith does a lot of stuff as well.
Yeah.
And the others do, but they dip in and out, and it's like
Murray's in there quite a bit.
a track a decade.
Yeah.
So you're right. He's lost his writing
Nico do a couple
partners.
as well.
He's done one. He's done
Yeah,
one or
yeah.
two. He's
Comes
lost
to
his
that.
songwriting partners. Yeah, it's all
Yeah.
a bit nuts. I mean, should we quickly go through the songs? Future Ill's an absolute banger.
Yeah.
Why that? I must say, this is all our least favourite record. It's got a couple of stone cold classics.
I've got 4 songs in there
Can
that
you
I
go
would
through?
include.
Go through.
So I've got Future Real,
Yep.
Leads
Lightning
off-
Strikes Twice.
Yeah.
You love that,
I
don't you?
love it. I love it. I love it because if I miss Angel and Gambler, the two work nicely
Okay.
together. The Klansman, obviously, but I have to thank Bruce for that.
Carried over into the
Really.
next tours by him.
And Come On, Stas Amigos.
A brilliant
Which, when I
song.
saw the track name years ago, I thought, that's going to be just bilge. Absolute dirge.
It's
Riff.
a great song.
Absolute great riff.
And it's a Blaze Gears song,
I know.
Ooh.
which is mental.
And I think Blaze in an interview has
It's a
said
great
he's
song.
one of the ones he's most proud of that he did with Maiden.
Really?
That was one of them he put most of himself into. I seem to remember from some recent interview.
I've seen the great man play it live with his solo band to about 20 people, still in tears.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
No more tears.
Oh.
Yeah. Can we talk about the Klansman before we move on?
Oh.
You said you've got Bruce Dickinson to thank.
Yes.
He's nowhere near this track.
He is nowhere near
so
this
why
track.
is he being thanked?
Because I probably wouldn't have ever listened to the Klansman if I hadn't have seen Bruce perform it
Yeah.
a few years ago.
Okay.
So
Oh,
when
you saw it.
so I saw it.
Wicked.
So it was included in that. I think it was the Legacy of the Beast tour,
Yeah.
the O2. That song come on. It all went blue. I was like, oh, this is interesting. It's obviously the Celtic Scottish
Yeah,
heritage, the
yeah.
Klansman.
Yeah.
I heard that angelic voice.
Angelic, he says.
Well, it's just,
I
it
am
just
the Klansman. I can't think how it starts, but yeah.
oh, it's just that.
Yeah, so
Anyway,
it was actually his rendition.
It was
that
his
brought it to
rendition that
life.
made me go, oh my god, I hadn't heard that Maiden song. And surprisingly, it was because it was on a Blaze album.
Interesting.
So then I went back and listened to the Blaze version, and it wasn't obviously as good because in my head I'm thinking Bruce.
Disappointing.
But as time has gone on, I would never listen to the Bruce one
Yeah,
over
you've gone to the OG.
Blaze.
Yeah.
Always OG.
Respect.
It's barely any Blaze songs make it into the next tours when Bruce returns. Very few, but Klansman
Yeah.
one of them. And interestingly, there's a
Yeah.
best of that comes out in the mid 2000s, From Here to Eternity, and any
It's
of the
great.
Blaze songs that get picked are live versions or with Brucey's vocals.
I hate
Oh,
that.
it's just
I think
horrible,
it's
isn't it?
disgusting. It's
Yeah.
poor, but it is what it is.
That was something you spotted as well,
Mm.
because I certainly had never noticed
Live
that.
tracks, any Blaze era tracks are done with.
Yeah.
And they did it with like 3, didn't
Yeah,
they?
and I can't be certain because
Savage.
it doesn't include the Diano era, so that one doesn't get. That problem doesn't come up again.
They'd probably do the same, wouldn't they?
It's possible.
If they did a
Possible.
full, yeah.
All I'll say is that as respectful as I am to Bruce for it, Blaze wrote it.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
Blaze and Harris wrote that song. So it doesn't matter how good Bruce makes it, he can't take the credit for that tune.
No, you can play it amazingly, but that's it. So,
So,
Virgin 11 then.
Virgin 11, yeah, we haven't gone deep, but can I quickly just mention the artwork?
Oh.
I wish you would.
I wouldn't have bothered if I,
I wish you wouldn't.
if I hadn't just picked it up again then, I wouldn't have even really scooped over it.
Right.
When we go in later to just
The almighty rigs.
7, 8,
Yeah,
9,
exactly.
10 out of 10 albums for their songs, it tends to come as a full package where the artwork's fucking phenomenal as well.
yeah.
Everything's like a package with Maiden.
Yeah.
So we've got slightly less than songs
Yeah.
We've got slightly less than arts to
Yeah.
go with,
And very less than production.
and very less than production. It's a shame.
Yeah.
It is a shame.
But 4 songs you can literally rage about and put on any Maiden best of.
Yeah.
So
I
do you
never
all
stand
agree
up.
on those songs?
I do.
Have you
I
got
do.
deviations?
Oh no.
Because you didn't. You seem surprised
Lightning
that Lightning
strikes
strikes
twice.
twice.
I find it very repetitive. Maybe lightning strikes twice. Memorable,
Yeah. I know what you mean.
but he
It's that
says it
rushing
like
the words out.
as many times as Village in Back in the Village. He mentions it, 25 times. It's just repetitive chorus.
Squeezes them all in at the end.
Yeah.
Kind of,
Back in the village, back in the village, back in the village. Again.
But yeah, certainly the crux of those songs, yeah, they are belters. I think they are.
Yeah.
I like Don't Look to the Eyes of a Stranger.
And no offence to your System of a Downs and your Corns and your Fear Factories of that year, but that is one banging album
Oh, yeah.
to come out.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah, for sure.
No point in
So,
me saying we
yeah.
do not like this album. There has to be a bottom one. There has to be an entry point to the list
I'm
at the bottom.
surprised.
And
I'm
it's
surprised that we're all
unfortunate.
agreed on it, but I didn't know your feelings on it.
I was waiting for the
I
bass to be
think X
justified.
Factor might be a little bit higher.
It's not coming too soon, X Factor.
Okay.
It holds a special
See now-
place
No,
in my
it
heart.
should, yeah. So
But
before we get
this
to X
this
Factor,
is our least fave.
brilliant.